Kia ora and welcome to the Trends Property Insight series. I'm your host, Andrew Johnson. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the often complex world of property transactions, from the excitement of buying or selling a home to the intricacies of refinancing. It's a journey most of us undertake, and having the right legal guide is paramount. Joining me is Kristy Jones, a senior associate at Denham Bramwell Lawyers, an expert in residential property, refinancing, trusts and wills, and is passionate about guiding clients through this often daunting process. So, Kristy, thank you very much for coming and having a chat to me today about everything to do with the legal side of property. I hope you're excited to be here today.
I am.
Because I think for some people, the exciting part of property is looking at open homes, thinking about, oh my gosh, okay, can we really afford things? But the work that you do is pretty much fundamental to everything. And I think it's an area that we don't get enough explained to us right before we suddenly get in the midst of it all. And it's like, oh, I need to understand some of the key fundamentals. So for you day to day, what does your job entail when you're dealing with people from your legal perspective?
The common transactions that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are your standard sale and purchase of property, refinancing. We deal with a lot of first home purchases. We also deal with a lot of purchases buying off the plans. Right. And then we also deal with a lot of family transfers. So that's transactions involving trusts or relationship property matters.
Right, okay. And why was that a particular part of the law spectrum that you've decided to specialise in? What was your sort of background that brought you to do this?
Property and commercial law wasn't my intended pathway.
Right.
I went to, or backtracking slightly, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 11 years old.
Really?
Yes. I actually was on a school field trip, and my teacher at the time, her husband was a partner in a law firm in the CBD in Auckland.
Right.
And after the field trip, we actually visited his office. I don't remember visiting any solicitors. I don't remember being in the building. I remember walking out of that building and thinking to myself, I was going to be a lawyer.
How fascinating.
And yes, so nothing stopped me on that path. I became a young mother at 18 and was fortunate that I had the family support to be able to start my law degree when my daughter was 16 months old.
Right.
And pursued that career. I'd always wanted to be a family lawyer, and I started practicing in family law for 3 months
Right.
when I was admitted to the bar. And in the firm that I was in at the time, there was an opening in the property team, and I was thrown into that space, and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. Did that little bit of exposure to family law still help you now because you are dealing with relationships and families with what you're doing?
I think so. For the most part, I mean, I was a junior lawyer, so, but yeah, definitely there were aspects of it that helped.
And so you talk about the different scenarios you deal with day to day, and sale and purchase of a property is probably the one that comes to mind. So if we look at the journey that some people are on, say a first home buyer, what are some of the common things you see that you wish people knew a little bit earlier in the process, or maybe they're reaching out to their lawyer or legal advice a little bit earlier in the journey, that you think people should understand when they're dealing with their first home?
I think the most important thing is seeking legal advice as early as possible. When you're thinking about getting into a transaction, when you're thinking about wanting to get into your first home purchase, before you even look at seeking finance approval, we have relationships with some very good mortgage brokers, some really good financial advisors. We work really holistically, and we work together to make sure we reach the best outcome for the client. So it's really important when you get to a point where you're seriously considering becoming a property owner, come and speak to us so we can guide you.
And is that before I go to my first open home, when I'm ready to put an offer in? What does that look like when you say I'm getting my mind? Is there a particular point that right from the beginning, even before I go to an open home?
Yeah, absolutely. Before you go to that open home, we can sit down with you and we can discuss what conditions would be appropriate for your situation. We can guide you through, if you do attend an open home and you have a draft sale and purchase agreement put in front of you by a real estate agent, we can help guide you through the terms of that contract. There are often clauses inserted or prepared and inserted by a real estate agent that might need to be amended to ensure that you're sufficiently protected.
Yeah.
And that's where we can step in and help.
So you use the term sale and purchase agreement the document, right? And that's something you deal with every day. But for someone who comes into the market, even for those people who are, buying a second home, it's something we don't look at every day. So what is it and what's its function when it's put in front of me by somebody like the real estate agent?
So it's a contract. It's a contract between an owner of a property and a potential purchaser of that property. And in that contract, there are terms, many terms that we can guide you through. There are, in a standard Auckland District Law Society sale and purchase agreement, there are standard conditions that you can include in your contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then with those conditions, there are certain processes that you have to go through. So it's not just as simple as thinking that you can make your contract or sale and purchase agreement conditional on finance, conditional on a satisfactory LIM. It's important for a purchaser, whether it's a first-home purchaser or a second-home purchaser, it's important to know that you simply just can't change your mind and cancel for non-satisfaction of a finance condition. You actually have to take steps to, make all reasonable efforts to satisfy that particular condition. And there are terms in the contract that say that, and that's where we come in and explain that to the client, which, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, why it's so important to come to us as early as possible so we can guide you.
Yes, and in terms of the offer that I'm putting in on a property, I can put conditions in that give me a little bit of a safety net, I suppose. It might be to do with finance approval, building inspections, lawyers approval. Are there things that when I'm signing it still give me a bit of a safety net before possibly it goes unconditional and actually becomes in effect?
Yes, absolutely. So all of the conditions that you mentioned, probably a catch-all condition would be a due diligence condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you the ability to do all of the investigations that you think are necessary to make sure that this property is right for you. I think the downside of a due diligence for vendors is that it gives the purchaser the ability to simply change their minds. So it's a case of discussing what your goals are, what your objectives are for your purchase, engaging with the real estate agent as well. So they are the vendor's representatives. So you can gauge from conversations with the real estate agent as to possibly whether or not the vendor is going to accept an offer that's conditional on due diligence, or whether we need to maybe insert your finance, your LIM, your building report conditions, and possibly a solicitor's approval clause.
And are there things that people can do prior to being in that position that allow them to have better terms for their contract? Because if I was selling my home, I've got two contracts in front of me, one maybe have better terms for me because they're a little bit, time frames might be shorter or finance is already approved, those kind of things. So there's stuff I can do to kind of get myself in a better position so my offer is maybe stronger than others if I'm in a multi-offer situation?
Yeah, absolutely. You are going to want to put your best foot forward, but at the same time protect yourself.
Yes.
And make sure that
it's a bit
you're
of a
not...
balance, right?
Exactly. It's a fine line. You don't want to commit to something and then get caught out. So that's why it's important, so important to come and talk to us.
And with the different processes and the ways the properties are taken to market at the moment, you've got auctions, you've got deadline sales, you've got price by negotiation, fixed price sales, things like that. Is a sales and purchase agreement the same for all of those?
No, they're not. So you have a sale and purchase agreement, a standard sale and purchase agreement, you have an auction sale and purchase agreement, and you have a tender sale and purchase agreement. So they're all very different documents. A lot of the key terms are the same, but there's different processes involved.
And so if I see a house is up for auction, does that mean I've got to be 100% able to buy that house if I go into the room?
Absolutely. You have to make sure that you do all of your due diligence before you attend that auction. You need to ensure that you have an unconditional finance approval in place and that you have carried out all the investigations needed to make sure that this property is right for you.
And that would include a building inspector or getting everything you need satisfied to make sure you're happy with what you're purchasing.
Absolutely.
And do you guide people on making sure that they're taking those steps right when they come to talk to you the first time, or do they come and see you with a property, with an offer? Can you give me some pre-advice before I do something on any house, or is it better that they come to you with a sort of a house in mind?
We can give general advice about what conditions are available to insert into a contract, but I think it's always... I think it's always better when you've got a particular property in mind, because then we can look at the online web listing, we can look at the online listing of the property, we can look at the title of the property, we can make sure that you're aware exactly what property you're looking to purchase.
Now, when it comes to things like refinancing, that's an extra sort of complicated sort of process. And some of the stuff that you deal with day to day, how does refinancing differ from, say, traditional property purchases when that's involved?
So a refinance is essentially you're moving from one lender to another. So there's a process involved with that. And again, the earlier you come to talk to us, the better. Generally, with a refinance, the process and time frame happens a lot faster than a sale and purchase transaction. So we can often get instructions from a bank for a client and have to complete that refinance within 3 working days.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's absolutely doable on our part, as long as all the other parts of the transaction can fall into place. So it's important for clients to talk to us as early as possible, because there are things that they need to do. I recently completed a transaction where the client made the comment that refinances are admin heavy.
Right.
And I found that quite interesting, because I do them every day. And so it's second nature to me.
Right.
But the process of having to engage with, in this case, with a mortgage broker, having to engage that mortgage broker to get the best offer from a new lender. And then, so there was a finance application that needed to be done. I wasn't part of that. The client then obviously having to sit with me and go through the documentation, the client having to get an updated insurance certificate, and not quite realising, I find a lot of clients don't realise how important what's recorded on that certificate is.
Yes.
Banks require full names. They require the bank to be recorded as an interested party.
Yes.
And I've just over the last couple of days had 3 or 4 emails with 3 or 4 different certificates because it wasn't quite right.
Yes.
And so, clients, if they don't engage with me early, and they're not made aware of those little hurdles early, can cause a lot of stress for them on the day of settlement.
100%, because it is a bit of a roller coaster that you're thrown onto, and in some of these infrastructural systems that you get with property and the legal side of it, you are just basically a passenger going, okay, been told I need this, I need to do this. And it all happens at the same time, right? At the time where it's like, gosh, I've only got a day or 3 days or 5 days or things like that. So are there common surprises? I mean, you talk about there that if people could come to you first, you could have actually liaised with people to not coordinate them, but certainly help with some of those logistics rather than having to re-explain what they're off doing by themselves. Do you think that there are common surprises that people just aren't aware of that do come up as you go through that process?
I think the insurance certificate issue is one of the main ones. Another one would be clients not quite realising what their potential break costs might be from their existing lender.
Right.
So that's where the mortgage advisor and the existing bank are really important. It's important to engage with them, and we can do that for the client to ensure that they're borrowing enough money to be able to pay whatever break cost there might be. If there's a previous cash contribution that needs to be repaid, if you've gone to refinance within a certain time frame of your current lending.
So is it a common situation where I've got a home, it's maybe I've got a partial mortgage on it, I'm putting it out into the market, looking to sell it, but I've found a home that I now want to buy, and I'm going to refinance with a new lender to buy the new property, in terms of having to work between what's left over of a mortgage, what's going to be released out of the property when it's sold, discharging that mortgage. It all sounds incredibly complicated. So you're saying coming to see someone like you straight up makes that refinancing not as admin heavy? Yeah,
absolutely. So the situation you just alluded to, that's more just a straight sale and purchase. So you're selling, you repay whatever might be owing to that current lender. You're then getting new documentation in place to register a new mortgage on your new property with a new lender.
And is it difficult at the moment with house prices being very varied, even on the same street, in the same suburb in some cases, to know I've had to put an offer on a property to purchase, I'm hoping to get this for my property that I'm selling? How do people get to deal with that situation? Because it must be quite complex to figure out the margins or expected sort of sale prices.
Well, absolutely. And so again, talking to us and making sure that we're making any purchase agreement conditional on the sale of your existing property.
Right.
Yes, and making sure that that clause is worded in a way that you can accept a certain purchase price or accept a contract on terms acceptable to you.
Mm-hmm. So it's possible I could actually have a condition that says, if my house doesn't sell, I'm not going to buy yours.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay. So it's a great safety net to have. It's good advice to know. So in terms of, you talk about the sort of the right trigger times and trigger points to come and talk to you is basically at the start, right? Are there other factors in my personal situation I might have in regards to trusts or wills or things like that that I also need to talk to you about that do come into play when we're going through these processes?
Yes, so some of the trigger points I think are before you acquire a large asset, when you're entering into a long-term relationship, a marriage, or you're entering into a new business venture.
And so can I buy a property if I'm not married?
Absolutely.
So what do I do to sort of protect myself in those situations?
So that's where what's called a contracting out agreement would become important. That is definitely coming out of my practice area, though.
Yeah. So, but in terms of you're able to coordinate that, if I was working with you guys at Denham Bramwell, you've actually got specialists, right? So not only do you try and do everything, you focus on what you do, and you've got a team member that can help with that.
Exactly. So we have multiple teams in Denham Bramwell. So if a client comes to me, they're looking to purchase a property with a partner. We sit down, we speak with them, we make sure we get an idea of what their situation is, what their goals are, and then if need be, we can bring our trust expert in, we can bring our relationship property experts in to ensure that the right structures are put in place.
In terms of, if I was coming to see Denham Bramwell, do I need to know specifically who I'm looking for? I'm just saying, look, hey, we're in a relationship, we're not married, we're thinking about purchasing a property, and I can just sort of reach out to you and you'll point me in the right starting position, or do I need to kind of know what I'm looking for?
No, you don't need to know what you're looking for at all. So you simply just find anybody in the firm and they'll point you in the right direction.
Excellent. And have you had any examples recently, maybe anonymously discussing them, that you think are a great example of where people did it right? You know, they actually came to you at the right time and you were able to guide them through the process, something that you're kind of proud of, I suppose, in terms of you actually did a great job because they leaned into the process.
Yes, I always advise clients who are buying new dwellings or nearly completed dwellings to obtain copies of the consented building plans and to make your contract conditional on a satisfactory building report. The reason for that is even though it's a new build, a lot of people have trust in the fact that it's a new house. I might have a maintenance period available to me, so I have 12 months to go to the developer or the vendor and require that they rectify some issues. They rectify issues that come up as defects in materials or workmanship. But what I've recently had is a client who I gave that advice. They followed that advice, and subsequently the building inspection revealed that there had been some work that hadn't been carried out in accordance with the building consent and the building plans. And if the work was left the way it was, in time would cause weather tightness issues for my client if they were the subsequent owner of the property. So that's also adding another layer to the situation, could cause issues for finance. A bank's not going to be happy lending on a property that's not been built in accordance with the building consent.
Absolutely. So the bank's not going to be happy at all.
Exactly. So there are a few layers, a few factors that need to be considered when a situation like that happens.
And the percentage split between, say, traditional buying an existing property versus buying off the plan, what's the split? Like, is it something that more people are just buying regular houses, ones that are available, or starting to move towards looking at homes that are new builds or buying off the plan? Do you see like a percentage of the work you deal with that there is there?
I don't think I've ever considered the percentage, so that's a really interesting question. I think it's just such a mix. We deal with so many different transactions, and with the way that the economy is now, we're seeing a lot of situations where we're having families buying together, we're having friends purchasing together, and so it's not. Yeah, it's not so much what kind of property that's probably not our focus, what kind of property is being purchased, but how it's being purchased.
Okay, so in those two sort of scenarios you mentioned, because I have heard about people say, hey, friends get together and buy a property. What would be the pros or the cons of that? Because it sounds a little complicated or a bit risky, or is it actually a bit more simple?
The biggest pro, of course, would be a cost.
Yes.
But the disadvantage, I wouldn't call it a disadvantage actually, as long as you're getting accurate and early legal advice, you can make sure that all parties are protected. So a property sharing agreement is one of the most important things when you're purchasing a property with a friend or with a family member. So ensuring that you have that contract in place to deal with things like how the property is owned, how utilities are dealt with in terms of who pays for what, who pays in what proportion is the insurance, the rates, the mortgage going to be paid. And then that contract also provides mechanisms for when one party wants out.
Now, we hear these terms in terms of the process, like unconditional settlement, and some people get confused by what they are and what they mean. So just for the record, what does unconditional mean when I'm in the process of, I've got an offer that I'm putting into something and I'm told, okay, great, it's been accepted. Now we're going to move towards going unconditional. What is that within the process? Do I now own the house? Is it mine? Can I move in? Can I go and open the door? What does that mean?
You'd like to, yes, of course. Unconditional, in the simplest way, is you're locked into purchase. So when you sign a contract and the vendor accepts that offer, you've then got a signed contract in place and hopefully there are some conditions in there. So that's your conditional period. So during that conditional period, you're doing all of the investigations that you need to do. So getting that building report, having us review the LIM, ensuring that you've got an unconditional finance offer in place for that particular property. So once you've satisfied all of those conditions, you move to being unconditional, where we as the purchaser's solicitor advise the vendor's solicitor that all conditions are satisfied and the agreement is unconditional. We then move into preparation for settlement.
Right. And so I've got to pay money at that point, right?
Generally, a deposit is payable once you go unconditional. Often it's 10% of the purchase price. And so, again, early discussions with your lawyer is so important, because if a first home purchaser wants to utilise their KiwiSaver funds towards payment of the deposit, we actually need to be involved as early as possible, because your contract, your sale and purchase agreement, needs to record mechanisms for how that's going to be paid because of certain undertakings or legal promises that we give to your KiwiSaver provider.
Right, so when I'm paying my deposit, I'm not just taking my bank account and giving it to their bank account?
No, generally a deposit's paid to a real estate agent.
Right. And is it common for KiwiSaver at the moment for first home buyers that is where the deposit's coming from?
Often, but generally I've been finding a lot of clients have gifts from parents, or they have cash savings that they're able to utilise towards payment of the deposit, and then they withdraw their KiwiSaver to use on the settlement date.
Ah, right, okay. So between unconditional and the settlement date, does anything happen?
A lot happens. Once you go unconditional, at that point for a purchaser, that's when the bank will prepare the loan and mortgage documentation, which then gets issued to us. We will review and prepare that documentation along with various other documents that you then come in and sign with us. We explain and sign with you. For a seller, it's a matter of ensuring that we're seeking a discharge authority from your current lender if you have a mortgage registered on your title. We liaise with the Auckland Council, if you're in Auckland, or the local council, and if any water meter readings need to be booked in. So we ensure that land rates and water rates are dealt with on the settlement date.
So you can calculate a percentage of where I'm at in that quarter cycle, payment cycle, whatever it is, and take care of that for me.
Yes. So when we prepare a settlement statement, we apportion between the parties who's responsible for what in terms of land rates.
And so on that side of being the seller or the vendor, from the time of unconditional to the time of settlement, I'm still responsible for the property, right? So I shouldn't be cancelling my insurance. I shouldn't be turning off the power.
Absolutely not.
It's still mine, right?
It's still yours, yes. So you need to keep the power onto the property, so when the purchaser carries out their pre-settlement inspection, they can ensure that they can check the chattels in the property are in working order.
Right. And from my experience, settlement day is both exciting and terrifying. So what should people expect settlement day looks like? Should I be taking some time off work to actually be available to deal with that?
A lot of people do take the day off if they're moving. If they have a sale and purchase happening on the same day, they often have a moving truck booked. One of the first questions I ask my clients when they come to sign their documents with me for their sale is, do you have sale and purchase, do you have a moving truck booked? And if so, what time?
Right, of course.
Yes. We always tell clients settlement can happen any time between 9 a.m. and hopefully 4 p.m. There's a window we need to work within. And so if you have booked a moving truck for 9 a.m. in the morning and settlement doesn't take place until 3 p.m. that afternoon, you're going to be incurring costs with that moving company, potentially. So I always try and tell clients to book the moving truck for as late as possible. If you don't have to move in that day, then that'll take some pressure off you.
And if I'm purchasing the property, I literally, when you send me an email or a phone call perhaps and say, hey, we are settled, it's literally give me the keys, the house is mine.
Absolutely. So we phone you, we communicate with you however you want to be communicated with in terms of when settlement's taken place. So we let you know that settlement's taken place, and at that point, the vendor solicitor will advise the real estate agent who's holding the keys that they are authorised to release the keys to the purchaser.
And on the other side of things, as the vendor, I get some cash?
Hopefully.
How does that happen? Like, does it come all straight away? Do I get it that day? How does that work?
Yes, generally. So once the sale funds are received on a sale, our accounts person will process, or our accounts person and partners will process payments. So we will repay the lender. We will pay council rates if need be. We will hold on to funds to pay the final water meter reading, and the net sale proceeds will be transferred to the client. And hopefully within an hour or two, the funds will be showing in the bank account.
And everybody's happy. And are there common pieces of feedback you, at the end of a process working with your clients, that you see a common theme or an understanding that they realise at the end of the process that perhaps you wish they'd had an insight into right at the start?
Yeah, absolutely. We deal with mortgage brokers and financial advisors and banks and real estate agents all day, every day. And so we really have built up some good relationships with these professionals. So I think it's a common perception that, not perhaps a common perception. I think people are scared to approach us, or people are scared to approach the legal profession. They don't see us along the same lines as a real estate agent, as a mortgage broker, but we all work together to make sure we get the best outcome for the client. So coming to talk to us and ensuring that we can put you in contact with all of these great professionals that we have good working relationships with means that you'll get the best outcome.
I think it's a lovely way to put it, because I don't think people see you in that particular role. They're saying, it's going to be expensive, I'm going to have to answer all these questions, as opposed to actually you're there to provide the advice that might save them time and money in the future.
Exactly. I make a real effort to simplify law as much as possible. Clients don't come to me, and clients aren't impressed by legal jargon if they don't understand it. When I completed my sister's first home purchase for her, I remember her stopping me every few moments and saying, but what does that mean? Oh, no, I don't understand. What does that mean? And that was a real light bulb moment for me. This is a number of years ago now. It was a real light bulb moment for me, and made me realise that it made me realise that I want to make sure when my client leaves the building, they know exactly what they've come in to sign. They've asked any questions that they need to, and they're informed.
That's a lovely way to deal with people, because you are looking for that reassurance and to build that trust with someone. That it takes a super smart person like you to take things that are so complex and make them so simple. And, it's like you can kind of breathe out sometimes when you meet people like you that can actually make it, because it's a pretty fearful, scary place to be. And just have that reassurance by saying, I don't feel stupid, I feel better informed, is such a gift.
Thank you.
Hey, now if people want to get in touch with Denham Bramwell or you specifically about anything, what's the best way for them to do that?
So probably our website, so denhambramwell.co.nz. We have the profiles of all of our solicitors on that website with all of our contact details. Or if you're not sure, law@denhambramwell.co.nz, and then your email will be put through to the right person.
And I should just write and say, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. Can someone help? And it'll get put into the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a really rough idea of what it is you're looking for assistance for, and we'll find the right person.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and talk with you. So thank you for sharing some of that simplicity and wisdom with everybody. I'm sure our listeners would have got a lot out of today. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to you for spending some time with us. Don't forget, you can find all our episodes on our platform by visiting trendsproperty.com. Here you can browse ideas and inspiration, products, people and places offering solutions for you on your property journey. Remember, you can sign up and join the Trends Property community where you can connect, collect and collaborate with others, or take advantage of our educational guides to help you take the right steps in the right direction. As always, thanks for listening. We hope to see you next time on the Trends Property Insight series, where we help you find your place, your way. Ka kite, goodbye.